Good evening, folks. My name is James Donoghue. I'll be asking the questions tonight of the three lads, as I'm sure you'll know that we're going to be talking about the 2008 football season for the Wexford footballers. Joining me tonight are Jason Ryan. If we can just give everyone a hello, Jason.
Sorry, good evening, James. Good evening, everybody.
Good to have you, Jason. And we've also got David Murphy. We'll come back to David in a second. And we've got Matty Forde as well. I'm sure you all know who all three of these gentlemen are.
Evening all.
We're just waiting on David to join us then. But before we go on, I just want to remind people that this will be recorded, and to make sure that you have your microphone turned off and your video turned off so that we're only listening to the boys. Okay? So 2008 was an incredible year for Wexford Gaelic football. It was a season of firsts. A first All-Ireland semi-final since 1945. A first Leinster final since 1956. And of course, they won silverware in the National Football League and staged one of the most incredible comebacks of all time. 10 points down with 20 minutes left against Meath. For those who have joined us tonight, we have a quick video to show before we get into the questions with the lads.
It'll be nice to relive memories of 05 again, just to be in that final.
You know it's going to be tough, but sure, that's what championship is all about.
We've all been changed from what we were. Our broken hearts left smashed on the floor. I can't believe you. I can't hear you. I can't believe you. I can't hear you.
Yeah, so incredible scenes that we seen there from the end. It was the RTE montage at the end of the 2008 season. Matty, if I can just start with you, like watching the montage like that and seeing Wexford as one of the forefronts of a montage, what kind of memories does that bring back for you?
Look, they're nice, obviously. Considering where we came from, you know, only maybe 4 or 5, well, for myself and a few other lads, maybe 7 or 8 years previous when we started. You know, it was a long way from All-Ireland semi-finals and Leinster finals that we had started playing for Wexford and where we were at that time. So, oh geez, look, it was fantastic. You know, we kind of felt that that's where we should be, certainly around then. So, you know, it was nice to be actually there and to be part, I suppose, of the big boys.
That's something we're going to be touching on tonight. Was it what at the start of the year when you set out your goals? Did you want to get to big days like that at the start of the year, or was that something that was just a dream essentially?
No, well, like we knew straight away when Jason came in, like he was fairly ambitious, and I think the first thing that struck me was his enthusiasm. So, you know, we targeted getting out of Division 3 in the National League and getting to a Leinster final. And, you know, not that anything from there was a bonus, but like there was no point in us trying to get ideas above our station. We had lost 4 Leinster semi-finals, I think, in a row. So that was our 5th attempt when we actually got over the line. But it was strange as matches went on, even we played 2 Burn Cup games, and it was you just felt something was probably going to happen from early in play. And then as the league went on, we started getting real momentum where we didn't lose during the league. I think we had a couple of draws and ended up winning the league final. So, you know, after that league final, beaten Fermanagh after extra time, you know, we kind of nearly felt that anything was possible.
Yeah, that's excellent. Look, we'll head right back to the very start and we'll talk to Jason. Like you said there, Jason put plans in place to achieve that. Jason, can you just tell us first, for everyone on the call, how you came in contact with Wexford football first? You had played for Waterford the previous season.
Yeah, pot luck, I'd say, James. A lot of luck. Certain things just seemed to fall into place, and it happened. I was lucky enough to be asked by Ger Fox to help out Clongeen with their senior footballers, and that was really enjoyable. Great bunch of lads, and Ger was a pleasure to work with. And then after at the end of that season, Ger Doyle, I met Ger Doyle, who was the chairman of the county board at the time, and we had a conversation in Waterford. And then after that, I met a great group: Larry O'Brien and Joe Shaughnessy, Paddy Wickham, Pat Hughes, and met them in New Ross for a conversation, and what turned out to be pretty much an interview, I suppose. And after that, it was a case of trying to get on with the job and see what we could how we could work together to try to progress as much as we could during the course of the year. But there was it was just very strange, James, how the things kind of landed, and there was no necessarily logic, rhyme or reason to any of the stuff falling into place. So when I got a phone call from Ger Doyle to meet him about the senior footballers, my initial thing was, is this a hoax? Or is this somebody just trying to play some sort of a game on me, you know?
And it was a surprise because of your age at the time. Did that leave it being a daunting task, or was it something that you got really excited about?
A daunting task. Like, you're dealing, like Matty was chatting there. Like, at the time, Matty had been an all-star, like one of the best players in the country, and then David, who'll be speaking in a few minutes. Like, anyone that's past David or played on the pitch with him know how much of a intimidating is maybe a harsh word, but how much of a physical, strong, determined character he is. But as a group, there were so many of the players there that were very, very strong characters. Matty touched on it, how the players themselves had a huge belief in themselves. They had a want and a desire to be. They felt that they'd underachieved in previous seasons, and I suppose from JJ Barrett on to Pat Rowe and Paul Beelan, they'd all worked really hard to get the guys to really believe in themselves and realise how good players they really were. And you had a combination of that and guys coming through good counsel and being successful in school competitions and successful under 21 teams, all feeding in together and making this a group of players that believed in themselves and realised that there was a lot of talent in the group. So yeah, I was very, very daunted by
very small, short from the bench.
But I've said it before,
And did you
to other people, that I was afraid to meet all the guys as a group together. I didn't. So you'd have the start of the year, you'd meet the guys and have a conversation. That was, I found the idea of that too daunting. So what I ended up doing was I met them one by one, and had little time slots booked in Wexford Park to meet these guys and have the conversations with them and find out about their individual goals and aspirations and whatnot for the group.
And just before we go on, did you have a set style of play in mind, or did you have a kind of a plan of where you wanted to go with this Wexford team?
Well, where we wanted to go was try to win every game as it came, and it sounds very simplistic, but initially it was to win games. That for the group, we played Laois in the first round of the O'Byrne Cup in Enniscorthy and had a really good win. It was a strong Laois team at the time. Liam Kearns is in charge of them. A lot of their players had won a Leinster title. They were a strong group, and so it was a really good win, and that definitely gave an element of momentum to what was going on and belief. And then the second day, it all went belly up because we played Carlow in Horace Wood under lights, and David and Matty will probably remember it, but like I remember arriving there, and there was a nice crowd around the place, a nice atmosphere, and Paul Beelan was manager of Carlow, and I remember the level of, and it sums up how respectful the Wexford GAA people are. That when Paul came in, I remember how welcoming everybody was. The Wexford people were incredibly friendly to him, and I was thinking, Janie, your man, these are big boots to fill, for me kind of coming in there. But they bet us out the gap, James. They absolutely trounced us in Horace Wood. And I remember on the drive home, any ideas or game plan or anything that I might have had, the drive home from Camp Isle was one where I was scratching my head. But Matty touched on it, like during the National League, I suppose things started to fall into place. Good results came our way. And from a style of play point of view, in Wexford, as players in general in most clubs, the guys are really comfortable with the ball in hand, comfortable passing the ball through their hands. They love running off the shoulder. They really enjoy support play. And then when you have, a full forward line, ball winners like Paddy Colfer and really dangerous forwards off the shoulder and winning their own ball, and Matty and Shane Roach and PJ Banville and Kieran Ling. It was a case of move the ball up the field, keep possession of it, get it into these dangerous players, and they're just brilliant scorers.
Excellent. We have it. We actually have a picture from that National League win. Where does that rank in your career, David? You're after getting the Wi-Fi working.
Yeah, James. Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Loud and clear.
I can.
Okay.
I can.
Okay, very good. Yeah, look, I mean, very proud looking at that picture. It's actually the only medal I ever won, or a lot of us ever won, with Wexford football. So, and it was a superb league campaign. We were unbeaten going into the final, as were Fermanagh. So, and they franked the form, I suppose, by getting to the Ulster final against Armagh. So, yeah, it was a good day in Parnell Park. Colm lifting the trophy that day after extra time as well. So, yeah, it was a good memory to be involved with, and it gave us a bit of momentum as well going into the championship, I would say. Good memories of that day.
Yeah. The question I want to ask you about that is, in 2005, you played in the Division 1 league final, and I suppose 2008 was the first year of the 4 divisions, and I think you missed out on 1 point score difference to gain promotion the previous year, actually up to Division 1, and wound up in Division 3. Did you find you kind of had a point to prove being in Division 3 that year?
Yeah.
Or was it a case?
I suppose with the new management coming in and the new league format at the time, it was a fresh slate. I think the Division 1 2 format of the previous few years had served us well. We'd competed at a high level, particularly in 4 and 5. And in 8 then we were where we were. Obviously being in Division 3, it was a competitive division. You still had, if I remember correctly, the likes of Down, Limerick, Fermanagh, who were punching above their weight at the time as well. So it was a competitive division, and obviously the aim was to get to Division 2. We got on a I would say a roll early on, insofar as not losing games. We came from quite a few points back away down Limerick to grab a draw. We won away and Down, if I remember correctly, and then even in the league part of the format, we drew away to Fermanagh after being behind early on as well. So it was we were gaining confidence the whole time. I mean, this wasn't a flash in the pan either, I would say. I mean, we were off, as the guys had talked about earlier, we were off the back of 4 Leinster semi-final appearances in a row. We just needed maybe something extra to get over that line of the Leinster semi-final and start competing in the final. Yeah, but I mean, that was a good league campaign.
Yeah, Matty, just on that, as David said, it wasn't like 2008 wasn't a flash in the pan, but was there ever a point during that league campaign in 2008, I suppose, a new management, Jason coming in, things going well, was there ever a point where it just clicked for you and you said, this year is going to be our year, or did that come later on during the summer?
Possibly, if David has just mentioned one game there, I think we won 5 of those league games. I think we drew 2, and Jason, I'm sure, probably still has all the stats there in front of him, and we'll get texts about it later on that we were wrong or something. But we drew away to Limerick in about the 4th or 5th game, and I think that was a kind, not a turning point, because we were unbeaten going into that Limerick game. I think we had 3 wins on the trot, but we were missing several players that day, and we were under serious pressure. I think we were maybe 6 points down at half time in that game, and I think we ended up getting a draw. I think coming out of Limerick, because it's a tough place to go, and I think a lot of us felt that day that, you know, this league campaign is on, which obviously or ultimately gave us a huge shot in the arm for the championship. But it ended up, I think, near the end of the game with Red scoring the most ridiculous point that I've ever seen scored in a football match, where the ball came over his shoulder, he wasn't even looking at it, and he volleyed it over the bar, and like he could have tore his cruciate, or he could have buried in the top corner. But as it turned out, the point he scored and the point in the game, you know, probably ended up being, I think, a huge shot in the arm for us. And I think maybe going up to Fermanagh the last day in the league and listening to ski, it was basically in a bog. This game was where we drew the game, and I think if the way it turned out, if Fermanagh had beaten us, I think it would have actually put us out of it. So we actually needed that point, and then, you know, to go on and draw with them in normal time and win an extra time in the league final. David said it there. You know, that gave us huge confidence going forward. But, you know, we had finished, and even in, you know, I know we're going to go on to it in a while, but even in the Meath game, we had finished games strong all year, particularly through the National League, which was all we had to reference coming into that first round against Meath. So, you know, we weren't even panicking, but, you know, we finished, I would have felt we finished every single game really, really strong that year, right through the year, maybe with the exception of Dublin.
Yeah. Jason, you were big on the stats and the opposition analysis at the time, were you?
I suppose we were just looking for any bit of an edge that we could get in any way at all. That if you know your enemy before you step in, then you have every chance. Matty spoke about the Limerick game there, and we part of the reason that we're 6 points down at half time is because we didn't get our homework right on certain things. I remember Ian Ryan, who went on to be just a tremendous servant for Limerick. It was one of his first games, but David or Matty will remember he scored outrageous points in the first half. He went absolutely to town on us, yeah. So we probably we mightn't have been 6 points down if we gotten that piece of work right at the very start. But we would have worked hard with video analysis, trying to look at analysing what the opposition were doing, what style of play they had, and who their key players were. And we tried from a defensive point of view nullify what the key players were able to do, and the guys responded well to that. Looking back on it, I don't know if player welfare was massive, guys, because I remember we used to train. We train on people talking about players' commitment and where they're at now. But back in 2008, the guys used to be they'd be in Wexford Park and in Gorey in the gyms on Monday night, all of them. Tuesday night field session, Wednesday night gym session, Thursday night field session. These are all collective sessions. Friday night they had off, and then for the whole championship season, on Saturday night we'd all meet up in Enniscorthy in Starlights, and we'd do video analysis in there, and then we'd play again on Sunday. So we saw a lot of each other that summer. We spent a lot of time together, and there was a lot of travelling going on, and none of them ever. There was no complaints. I think it was nearly a case of this is working at the moment. Let's keep on going with what we're doing.
Yeah, you spent a huge amount of time together, and the bond was extremely evident. I'm told, David, that you were good at putting on sketches and stuff after training and at meal times and stuff. Is that the case?
No, there were a few characters in the dressing room. All right, I wouldn't put myself up there, but but to that point, that was probably the key thing with this group. I would say all along. We had a tremendous bond. We were as good of friends off the field as we were, you know what I mean, as we were on it. We even outside of trainings, a lot of us would live in each other's pockets. So I mean, yeah, that was a huge thing. And to the point about the additional information and the prep for games, Jason's probably underselling himself there. Like, I mean, you'd have a mountain of information on every single player, particularly the one you're going to mark, left foot, right foot, what he likes doing, shimmies, that type of thing, and that's what we wanted. That's what we, you know, that's what that group craved to get to the next level. But yeah, Matty was part of those jokes after training as well. Now, that no doubt about that either.
No, I was fairly innocent, but there's one thing I can absolutely agree with our former manager is we certainly spent a lot of time together and we're on the road a lot because say it had a good bit to do with me only getting married about 12 weeks ago, so we literally hadn't time to that during that period.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, guys. Just on that, James, when you're asking about the analysis, like nowadays, you know, you have people with their projectors in their analysis rooms and they're all able to sit down, and the players, I remember being huddled in rooms, and Wally, like, we had a brilliant backroom team, like in a photograph there, Mickey Bowe and Ray Morley are in it, but the guys in the back room that were doing so much work, they were just brilliant people. Wally Byrne was our kit man, and Wally used to have an old Solara, I think it was a Solara TV that my parents used to have. It was a big lump of a thing, and Wally nearly had to do a manual handling course to get the thing out. So when we used to do video analysis in different places, we used to have to lift the TV around and lift it into places and out of places. So things have moved on a long way since then.
Yeah, it's brilliant stories. Wait, I suppose the Meath game then itself, Jason, like you seem a person who's constantly trying to get the extra edge. At halftime in that game, it was 2-8 to 4 points. What do you say to your team in that scenario, or was there anything you could do, or was it just up to the players?
The group, like, it was the day itself was an incredible day weather-wise. It was incredibly hot. So in Carlow, by the time you get off the pitch and get into the changing rooms are packed. You don't really have much time. So I think from the players' point of view themselves, they felt like they were in shock in the first half, the way things had gone. It didn't really go according to plan at all. But what people maybe don't remember is that the first half was a disaster as well. The first 10 minutes of the second half, it was shambolic. We didn't perform. And so anything I might have said at half time, it definitely didn't have any impact. It's the guys themselves, and that was consistently with this group, that they themselves fixed so many problems. But they were a real group that built on momentum. And in that last 20 minutes, things just happened. We got a score, we got another score, we built on it. Then we got another score, and Meath weren't able to come down, and we got a little bit of luck, and it just went, and they got stronger and stronger. And the players that started and the guys that came into the game, like the few of the fellas that came into the game, they were immense. You know, Tommy Howland was brilliant when he came on, and Adrian Morrissey was brilliant when he came. There was Shane Rowe, like, these guys were just fabulous. Like, every one of them made a huge contribution. And from all the games in the National League, Matty made a point that we finished strong. We did, and it's as if that belief was still there that, yeah, we're behind, but we're now 9 points, 8 points, 7 points, 6 points. All of a sudden, we're in touch and distance, and they had that belief to keep going. That there was so much experience. Like, that, while the guys hadn't been to a Leinster final, there was so much experience in the team. Like like Matty spoke about how many years he was in there, but like Colin Morrison, Philip Wallace, they played for so many years and they had so much experience that they were, all of these fellas, they were a huge driving force off the field, but a massive one on the field as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting, like you said, it's 2-8, 4 points at halftime, and then 20 minutes left, you're 10 points down again. Did you actually believe you were going to come back and win it, David?
Yeah, well, look at it. I mean, it's very hard to say it now. Like, looking back, went in at half time. Yeah, you're just you're trying to gasp or get your breath at half time. I mean, Jason referenced how warm it was. It was, Carlo. There was a huge crowd at that game. But like, I mean, I don't know. Did someone say at halftime, let's go win the second half? Did you think you were going to be in the Leinster semi-final? 30 minutes later, probably not. I suppose when we started getting the scores, and Jason mentioned Adrian Morrissey, Roche and Tommy. Like, I mean, Adrian Morrissey was like a man possessed in that second half. I think the highlights do that justice as well. Like, I mean, and when we did get a sniff, the fact that, like, I mean, I think the previous 3 or 4 times we played Meath, we'd won. I think that was our 4th victory over Meath in a row. So then you get the sense that, you know, we're getting closer here. And then anything that was going up front, like, I mean, Linger was on fire that day. PJ got a goal. Matty finished with a few tremendous points. So then you get the sniff of it. And then I always found with Meath too, like, when you got on top of them, they weren't great at holding a poker face. I always thought they'd start a bit of infight. They'd start a bit of infighting and a bit of getting on to each other. And then I think one of their midfielders was sent off with 10 minutes to go. And the whole wave was going with us. Let's not forget that they got a goal as well, disallowed in the second half. Anthony, for his dramatics, obviously got free out, but I mean, not many referees would have given it. And then, yeah, so things were going for us in that second half. I mean, I remember they missed a short free there right towards the end as well, crucial at the time. But I mean, you know, Brian Malone started winning breaking ball. Colm did around the half back line. Adrian was driving forward. So yeah, I suppose the momentum got behind us. All great memories now, great memories. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose, Matty, ye felt that ye could get at Meath. Ultimately, in games like that, where it's hell for leather, last minute points, do the bond of the players playing make that much of a difference to get you over the line? Is it an essential component?
Look at it, there's no doubt about it. It does. That would have been a game, I suppose, if we didn't have kind of it's easy to talk about it now, the team spirit and that kind of thing. And to be honest, it was a lot of ignorance as well, because we had plenty of ignorant fellas in that team. But I mean that in the best possible way, where lads just wouldn't give in. And this was the same in training. You know, our whatever training games or short-sighted games in training were absolutely savage, where lads, we were just always trying to get the better of each other. And all good teams have that. And we had a huge amount of very big men, but like, we were lucky, and all teams that win in any sport have one thing, and that's leaders all over the field. And we had them literally in every line of the field, and in some cases a couple of guys in each line. But you know, David said we had a very good record against Meath. I never lost a match against Meath in my career, but like, we definitely needed a bit of luck to get back into it. There's no doubt about it, and we got that possibly with their goal, and at least one of ours. But look, at you make your own luck at times too. And you know, we had a lot of guys throughout the field that just would not give up, and they never knew when they were beaten. And I think that stood to us and stood to that team and that group over a number of years. And look, to answer your question, I think it probably did. Without that team spirit we had and that togetherness we had, there's no way we could have come back. We had a perfect excuse. We were 10 down, got it back to 5 or 6, went 10 down again. There was 20 minutes to go. This was it was looking like kind of the Wexford team of 2000 and maybe 2 or 3 or 4 all along. You know, go out with a defeat and go out the following week and lose in the qualifiers, and that's your championship season over again. But you know, that team just wasn't going to give in and weren't going to accept that.
And it was yourself who kicked the winner from about 35 yards to win it. I suppose us in the coaching office, you know, your ball striking was really good that summer. Was it something you practiced on your own, being able to kick those points from distances under pressure, or how did you get yourself ready for that?
It's just hours of practice, and I was doing this like from the time I was a kid, probably literally not knowing at some stage down the line I was going to be either playing with Wexford or going to need this at some stage. But I do remember back years ago looking at people in sport or different sports that did things kind of what I thought was the right way, or made it look more simple, and tried to emulate that. The likes of players like Maurice Fitzgerald springs to mind straight away. Because you know, they were so economical and made it look so easy, and you were trying to do that. And you know, like I obviously took frees for most of the duration of my time playing with Wexford, so that's about repetition and doing the same thing over and over again. And you know, it's not just kind of repetition or practice; it's proper repetition or proper practice. And you know, the more often you do it, the luckier you're going to get. So you know, thankfully I had practiced, you know, that one on a good few occasions. But look, at the time, you're not thinking that. The shot presents itself, you have a go for it, and it goes over, it goes wide. If it goes wide, you know, extra time probably you're going to. If it goes over, you're a great fella, you miss it, They're the bollocks, and it's as simple as that.
The next photo I suppose we're going to get up on screen is from your first big breakthrough, that win against Laois, and it's the first Leinster final in 1956. And we're going to bring Anthony Masterson on in a second now, just because he has a couple of stories from that day. But David, first of all, like, you've been knocking on that door, you've lost a couple of Leinster semi-finals. What were the initial feelings after you won that game?
I suppose obviously relief, delight to be eventually getting to prepare for a Leinster final. I mean, I'm looking at that photo, and I'm sure Paddy Colfer would say, "There's Murphy seeking out the camera again." But anyway, but my memories from that day is comfortable, I would say. I mean, I think we particularly after obviously the Meath game and the comeback, we were still unbeaten. We had momentum behind us again, and I mean, I think the previous year we lost to Laois in a semi-final in 7. Yeah, and I think and we probably kicked away from a winning position. Like, we were definitely the better team, I thought, that day. Remember Kieran Ling was on fire that day, and like, there was no problems with I suppose belief going into that Laois game. And thinking back, I think we won by 6 or 7 points. Yeah, comfortable enough, delighted. Jason into the dressing room straight away, recovery, preparing for the final. It wasn't anything mad celebration wise or anything like that.
Anthony, are you able to come in there? I think Anthony played that in goal that year. Yeah, I've got you there, Anthony.
Look, before we move on to the Laois game, actually, Jason mentioned about Ian Ryan taking us to the cleaners down in Limerick, but one thing he forgot to say, that Mikey Hanrahan made his debut that day, and he actually forgot his boots. I don't know if the boys can. So having a pair of boots would have been a help for Mikey. I remember sitting beside Mikey, and he was all nervous the day before we travelled down, and because he was nervous because he was making his debut. And next minute he turned around and says to me in the dressing room, "Jesus, I've no boots." He says to me. So we had to, on the QT, without telling Jason, we had to go asking around on the QT to get him a pair of boots.
Well, to be fair, when that was all, Mikey forgot he wasn't going too bad.
But anyway, yeah, the funny story about the Laois game was, David alluded to it, the fact that we were. I think, remember Adrian Morrissey getting man of the match afterwards in his interview, saying we just were never going to lose that game. We just felt that after losing 4 in a row in the previous years, we were never going to lose. But about 3 or 4 minutes to go, Matty and I think Kieran had kicked a point each and maybe nudged us to something like 6 points clear. And you looked up and you were in stoppage time then, and you knew the game was over. So David obviously was centre back and I was in goal. And Laois someone was down injured, and David proceeded to go around telling the whole panel that they're not to celebrate at full time. So he comes into me and he says, no shouting or roaring or jumping up or hugging anyone after this match. He says, don't show whoever we're going to play in the final. He says, don't show them that we're happy just to win a semi-final. We want to win a Leinster final. So next when he goes out to Colin and he goes out to Brian Malone, he goes to David Walsh and he starts shouting to Philip Wallace, no celebrating at the end of the match. So Dermot Hanlon, the final whistle goes, Dermot Hanlon comes running into me and he starts hugging me. And I'm like, Dermot, it's grand, get off me sort of a thing. And I'm trying to be as reserved as possible. And I get about 30 yards up the field and I see David Murphy jumping up and down on every single player, the back off everyone, hugging everyone in front of all the cameras, tensing his arms, showing off in front of the cameras. And I remember in the shower afterwards, I said to him, Jesus, Murph, what happened with not celebrating? He says, oh, fuck it. He says, I lost 4 in a row. He says, I lost the final whistle went.
Thanks for that, Anthony. You put yourself on mute there again now, please.
What was it? I suppose, Matty, you'd been trying to get to that Leinster final for so long. You probably didn't have the best of starts to that game. Was there a sense of nervousness about the Laois game itself and trying to get to the Leinster final?
Yeah, probably, because realistically this time we kind of really believe we're going to win, but still we had to go and do it. And we'd stumbled on Laois, a good number of times before that in championship. 2003, 2007. I think there was another one in there. There was several league games. So I think David said there to start, they'd beaten us in the semi-final in 2007 as well. So Now, look, we had this confidence behind us, but with confidence and kind of, a lot of people starting to fancy us at this stage brings his own bit of pressure as well. And I think there was a certain amount of that there. But, once we settled into the game and got into our stride, as I said before, it's easy to say now, we probably ran out comfortable enough winners in the end. And, the game was over, with a few minutes to go, which is a nice position to be in any championship game. But yeah, I think we were a little bit edgy at the start, and it took us a long time maybe to grind them down. But, we eventually got there.
And then, Jason, as you said, the preparations probably started straight away for the Leinster final. Just talk us through the build up to the Leinster final. Maybe how were things going in training?
They were going really well. Like a lot of it was new. It was new for some of the players. We still had there was a core of players that had played in Croke Park before, and it's probably something that other provinces don't realise, the amount of games that the lads get a chance to play in Croke Park. But just even getting used to that, the warm-up area being so small and making use out of that, and being out in the field and not leaving all of your energy in the warm-up and it affecting you in the first 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes of the first half. Training was on the verge of turning into a circus probably in the last week or so before the game, because you have demands from the media, you have demands from different people coming into it and sponsors in different ways, shape or form. So we tried to manage that the best that we could. We still moved around training a good bit. That we tried to train in, especially in the weekends, we tried to train in as many different kind of parishes as we could. And the lads were always looking for pitches where there was a decent bit of grass covering, because at that stage in the year, the ground was getting so hard that we would have trained a lot in Patrick's Park earlier in the year, and as you get to that stage in the summer, it's like being on a car park. It's just so solid. Roy Keane definitely wouldn't have liked it, but we move around and we'd train away on the different pitches, and I think it was important though when you are in the different communities for the players are great at staying around for a while and meeting a few of the kids, and there was kids coming over and looking for photos with the lads or autographs and different things, and that's an important part as well, to try to raise the profile of football in different parts of the county, but also to give those kids role models going forwards. But the training content, your initial question, I suppose we planned for best we could what we thought we were going to be faced against Dublin, and yeah, I don't know. Like if you're leading up to the result and how the game went, and if we were to change training, what we do different, that'd be a serious $1 million question. I'd leave Anthony and David and Matty maybe comment on that one, because that was
I suppose the forward line for Dublin that day, you had players like Alan Brogan and Diarmuid Connolly. I think he got his first championship goal, and they kind of shaped the next 5 or 6 years for Dublin, a time which he had great battles with him. Like, how much did you learn from that Leinster final moving forward? Because you had some great battles with Dublin after that, and you had a brilliant first half against them in that game.
We didn't. I don't think we really played that day. For so much of the game, we didn't play at a level that we were capable of, and maybe in training there was, when we were looking at the opposition, maybe there was a level of guilt on our part that as a management team that we spent too much time focusing on what Dublin did. I don't know, or maybe I'm not too sure. But when I look back and I think about it, it was a disappointment for the group that we just didn't do ourselves justice during the course of the game. And Dublin were built up a serious head of momentum, and they just score after score and goals went in, and it really hurt us. And heads, and I'm not speaking out of turn by saying heads did drop. Like, when a score gets that big, it's very hard, no matter how proud you are and how hard working and how honest you are, it's very hard to stay, right on the edge of playing anywhere near your best. And it didn't happen. And James on that, and part of it that, Tyrone gave Dublin a battering in the All-Ireland quarter-final, that year. So if we had performed, I'm absolutely, I've no doubt about it, if we had performed anywhere near our best and what we were capable of, we would have been thereabouts at Dublin that day. We really would have been. But they had more experience of that big day. The atmosphere was unbelievable. That year, there was more people at the Leinster final that year than there was at the All-Ireland final. Like
it was a phenomenal atmosphere.
It was just unbelievable. Like, it was unbelievable. It was an amazing day, an amazing event, and we did go into it knowing that, like, we will enjoy the occasion and the event. We're not going to leave the occasion get the better of us and prevent us from performing on the day. But look, things didn't work out.
I suppose as regards regrouping from that, David, like, what the following week, when did you come back training, and as I suppose a senior player on the team, how did you react to it coming into the down game?
Yeah.
How did you regroup and
Yeah. I mean, look, it was obviously the scoreline was pretty comprehensive insofar as we were beating out the gate in the second half, and sure, we couldn't get possession, but we learned lessons, I would say, that day, particularly about playing Dublin, that we could bring forward into future games. But to answer your question, am I right in saying it was a 6-day turnaround? I think we would have definitely had. Yeah, it was Jason, wasn't it? Yeah. So we definitely we would have definitely gone out and maybe drowned our sorrows that night, but we would have been back training. Listen, obviously, and it's been said plenty of times before. The draw against Down had lost an Ulster semi-final and had picked up, I suppose, a few wins in the back door. But the fact that the match was fixed for Croke Park definitely helped us. We had very little time to think about it. We obviously got back training. I can't remember the details during the week, but it would have been just recovery. And I would say that's where Jason and Mick and Mick Casey and the lads worked their magic insofar as more getting the heads right than anything else.
Lads, do you remember in the warm-up room after the game? Like, that's of all the times that I've been in Croke Park post-match, that's the most vivid game that I can remember being there. I remember you as a group in there talking to each other, and it was as if a switch went off. We've lost the game. We need to move on. And I remember Philip in particular, Philip Wallace, saying, you know, we've had this same in previous years where we've lost the game, we've come back in the qualifiers and haven't performed, and like, enough is enough. But I remember how Philip didn't say an awful lot, but when he did speak, he had the focus of every single person in the room, and there was no mess with him when he was talking. Like, I can still see his face and how serious he was and how much it meant to him, and I could see a huge buy-in. Like, the body language is, you know, says so much or whatever, but as a group I could see it there and then. Like, this group are not going to back down.
Yeah, I think Jason is right enough, but I'm pretty sure there was 2 weeks between that game, and I think it was huge because I'm pretty sure we all went and played club championship the following Wednesday night, and then we ended up going back training on the Friday. So we had from Friday till following Saturday. So like, it was 2 to 2 weeks. But the getting away just to the club for, it was literally one night. I'm fairly sure it's right, and then straight back to prepare for Down, which was a good draw for us, because I think, and I could be wrong on this, and maybe someone that's listening in might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think us playing Down a week after that Leinster final mightn't have been great for anyone, despite what had been said in the dressing room. But I think it was 2 weeks, because I think I've spoke about this since and spoke with it at 2 people about it since, that having 2 weeks for a change, because it was at the first time we'd ever had 2 weeks between a qualifier, or between losing in Leinster and playing in a qualifier from if I'm right. And I think that alone, just getting back to the club for one night and then ready to go again and having that full week to go into Down, I think was very important for us. And I think that's right enough.
I suppose during that time as well, Jason, Brian Malone became sweeper, and he excelled in that role and during the run through the qualifiers and the quarterfinal and so on. How did that come about?
It was more so in preparation for the Armagh match that we started looking at that. I suppose we had a very thoughtful bunch in the back room. Pat Barden and James Kennelly and Ger Fox and Mick Casey and Diarmuid O'Hanlon, and we would have spent a lot of time debating and discussing how to deal with what the opposition are going to do. We would have been that, you know, with one-to-one matchups in certain situations, think, okay, that's going to work, and how are we going to deal with it? But in the build-up to the Armagh match, we were very much aware of their desire to deliver the ball in really early and kick it in. And it wasn't necessarily kicked at anyone in particular. They were looking to deliver early ball, and how are we going to deal with it, and how are we going to defend against that? And we did a lot of suppose even in training, I don't if you remember, lads. I remember Stephen Banville used to come in, and Stephen Banville was Ronan Clark, bring him in and get him working on the early ball being delivered in. And Stephen was involved with the Wexford Senior Footballers at the time, and he stayed in for some of the training sessions. Stephen was a fine footballer, but we tried to replicate some of the scenarios that were going to be thrown at us by Armagh. Brian's comfortable on the ball. Brian reads the game really well, and makes good use out of it. And apart from being the best man in the country to win frees, but Brian was absolutely superb at it, and we felt that it gave us an extra man going forwards, but it also helped us to try to nullify what the opposition were doing. It was something that we found the whole year, that when we played, in particular the Ulster counties, they were far more prescriptive in how they played. That they had a very clear game plan, and their game plan was plan A, and then plan A, and then still plan A. And then when plan A wasn't working, they weren't able to play as spontaneous. And that was something I would have said with this group of Wexford footballers. They were able to play in different ways, and they're able to adapt and change. You had guys like David that loved kicking the ball early and delivering really good quality kick passes in. But then you had other people like Colin Morris that were carrying the ball out of the half back line and looking for runs off the shoulder and shorter play, but retaining possession of the ball. So Brian performed really well, in fairness to him.
Matty, there's a picture up there of you from that game, and you scored that brilliant goal and you scored that brilliant point from the sideline. But you were actually carrying an injury going into that game, were you?
Yeah, I got hurt. It was the same in the down game. If that's the game you're talking about, I got hurt. Hurt my hamstring leading into it, and it wasn't right, but like probably. We muddled our way through the down game to a certain extent. Like we were fully deserving of our win, but I probably muddled my way through it. But if it had been 5-6 years earlier in my career, I'd been better off sitting on the sideline, because by this stage of me playing, I'd kind of learned to be a little bit more patient, and I didn't have to do everything I had to do maybe a few years previous now, because at that time, likes of Colfer and Linger and Banville and Red and all, we had a serious forward line at this stage. So I ended up finishing out the game okay, and I knew the same in the Armagh game. If Jason left me there long enough, because for a lot of the first half I was a passenger, that if I bided my time long enough, a chance eventually would come. And you only need to get one chance. And we'd said coming up to the Armagh game, they've never really put teams to the sword and really went out. So if we could stay with them into the last 10 minutes, we really felt we had a very good chance, because we had finished games out so strongly. So we literally got one goal chance in the game and scored, and it came from nothing. And Jason is talking about game plans and stuff. I've looked back at a little bit of the down game, which was available somewhere recently, and a bit of the Armagh game. And I think at times we were playing like Wimbledon, where the lads were just absolutely lorrying the ball into us from the halfway line, and it was brilliant. We were getting 3-on-3 and 2-on-2 inside, and winning breaks. Kieran, I remember, scored a brilliant point in that Armagh game from a high ball that was lorried in on top of Paddy, I think, by Red. But there was loads of that. But at that time you could do it because you weren't surrounded by 6 extra defenders. So it was great. But no, sorry, just going back answering the question. No, I wasn't 100%. But look, I said, by being playing a bit smarter and being a bit more patient, that I wouldn't have been earlier on in my career. I was able to hang in there till the end of the game and get on the end of one chance that we had.
One thing that's noticeable, I suppose, from scoring that goal was the smile on your face after you scored it, even though there was probably a bit of time left. But it was very noticeable about that run through the qualifiers and all the way to the semi-final, that there was such a happiness in the way you played as a group. But how does something like that come about, David, at top level sport, that everyone's playing with a smile on their face? How did you get yourselves in that mental mind frame?
Yeah, well, I would say the environment shapes that, doesn't it? And the people within it. And I mean, we had a good camaraderie there. We developed that from 4, 5, 6, 7. Jason enhanced that with the people management side of things. He brought in people as well that were good one-on-one. Jason obviously dealt well with individuals. I mean, the way we not backtracking, but we lost to Dublin obviously badly. But when we'd previously lost semi-finals, you had 3 or 4 rounds to get to an All-Ireland quarter-final. I think this now, when you lose a Leinster final, you're 1 game away from a quarter-final. And to us, getting to an All-Ireland quarter-final was massive at the time. We'd seen underdogs such as Fermanagh do it. So we wanted to get there. So that was one game. So we got straight back to Croke Park. We enjoyed each other's company. We enjoyed winning. The crowds were getting bigger at the games. We never minded playing Ulster teams, funny enough. And I mean, I'm not sure if they had the respect for us. So we, insofar as Jason said, plan A. It was I don't think they spent too much time worrying about us, but yeah, we enjoyed it. And look, it was more what was happening off the field than on it. Insofar as the camaraderie in the dressing room, the crack we'd have before and after training, that shaped that, I would say.
And James, sorry, I'd just like to come in on that for a second. Like, I know when I scored the goal there, I think you had the picture up there. Like, I had a smile as wide as the Slaney in my face, because it was literally the first time I got away from Francie Bellew all day, because he was poking and kicking the shite of me, both on and off the ball. So it was
Matt, you must have been happy, because it's the first time I saw you kissing the crest.
I was happy enough, to say the least. I wasn't celebrating to Murph proportions after the Laois game, but no, look, I was just delighted, because I literally, all things being equal, had I not been injured, I would have been giving myself a better chance, but I could not get away from him, and he was letting me know it all day. So, once the goal went in, I was only too happy to let him know that we had scored it.
Did you ask him to be umpire after he scored it, or?
No, I waited till things a little bit later on, till we had the game wrapped up, and he did get a few verbals then, all right, but I left it. The game wasn't over at that stage, or by any means, so I kept my mouth shut.
I suppose, David, you just said the phone in the dressing room, that made such a difference with the smiles on the faces and stuff. Is there any particular moment that stands out for the three of you during that run that you just said, geez, that was brilliant?
Yeah, well, I mean, the satisfaction, I think, after the Armagh game, knowing that we were in an All-Ireland semi-final, don't come around very often. The previous one being, was it 44, 45? Like, unbelievable feeling. Kerry and Galway were playing afterwards. I remember there was a monsoon and after the game and after our game, and just in the early stages of the Kerry Galway game, and just knowing that you had a run into an All-Ireland semi-final. We were on the Saturday. We were going to sit back the next day and watch Tyrone and Dublin, and unbelievably to see who we're going to play in an All-Ireland semi-final. It was just such a sense of satisfaction at the time. Again, Jason being the manager that he was, no issue with getting a few beers back in town that night. I remember we were clapped into the Wren's Nest that night. Look, at not many Wexford footballers, can say that over the years, and I mean, it was the place was, I wouldn't say packed that night. It wouldn't be like coming back after an All-Ireland win or anything with the hurlers or like that. But I tell you, our own crowd were there, if that makes sense, and the guys that had followed us and whatever. And it was just sweet. And the next day was sweet, and yeah,
brilliant. There was no drink ban then, Jason, was there?
Well, before Jason, before you come in there, this is the truth. This is how conscientious he was. He was there hanging around the Wren's Nest that night, ready to drop, keeping an eye on who was drinking what and how many people were having. And then Fox was there to drop people home. Jason was there to drop people home when we'd had enough. So once we got called for out there, we were all good.
Yeah, I remember being after the Down game, and I remember the conversation, and Colin was captain at the time, Colin Morris, and but David and Red were nearly like the social secretaries, and they were like negotiating. Look, we need to go for could we just together as a group for a couple of points, nothing crazy. We're taking nice and easy. But it was always this thing of, I'll just keep an eye on what's going on here to make sure it all goes according to plan. And I and watching them getting into cars, heading home, getting taxis, getting this, and then thinking, I hope they're actually going home now, and getting out of there. So yeah, we'd stay around and try to keep an eye on things, and I'd be driving away down home, and Ger was always brilliant at being around, being able to drop a few fellas home and keeping an eye on what's kind of going on as well. And because, like, there was guys there. Some of the lads were still under 21. They're young lads. You still want to try to mind them and making sure that they're all safe and well. And the camaraderie there was brilliant. Like, they're good people, James. A lot of it came down to the fact that the reason they got on good with each other is that they were good people. It's a really good group of lads. There was nobody in there to say he was a drain on the group. They were just really, really good fellas that respected each other and they took things the right way.
Yeah, it sounds like an excellent atmosphere in the build up to that semi-final. Matty, I suppose I have to ask you, I like yourself, and I was watching Last Dance during the week, and I was wondering, is there characters like that in the GAA? And then I'm watching the All-Ireland semi-final against Tyrone, and I see you're over having a joke with Mickey Hart before the game. And again, the Wexford team, you're just playing with a smile on your face. Like, how excited were you as a group coming into that semi-final?
Actually, look at like obviously on the day you're not running out on the pitch, jumping up and down with excitement. Like we genuinely believe we were going to win, and we just had that bit of stubbornness about us that year. And for a couple of years after it, I think that we could, as Jay said, we could go out just try to win every match, but we were going to win it. But I wouldn't say I was having a joke with Mickey. I just literally went over to wish him the best of luck. He'd been on a trip with us, or a couple of trips with us previous, I think with All Stars or something like that. And it was just it wasn't anything I'd meant to do or decided I was going to do. He just happened to be there when we were parading, and I went over and done it. And I certainly have no problem about doing it. Look, we were just mad to get out. We couldn't wait to get back to Croke Park. And as David says, the night after the Armagh game, absolutely, everyone was delighted to go and get a few points together, because this is where the crack really starts. And there's a lot of stories that probably aren't appropriate for here that emanated from them nights, but like it absolutely built the team spirit that we had. So like we couldn't wait for this game. We couldn't wait to get going. I think there was 2 weeks between the quarter final and semi-final, and if we'd have played it the following day if we could have at the time. But like we fully believe we were going to win it. We really did, and I think you don't need to look any further than the second 35 minutes of that match to see that the lads believed they were 100% we could get to the final.
Was it tough on yourself not being able to play those second 35 after, I suppose, feeling in the Armagh game that if you hung in there, you get your opportunities? How tough was it on you in that second half?
It wasn't ideal anyway, James. I'll put it to you that way. No, look, it is. I went in. I knew straight away when it happened, and I can't, like, there's a lot of matches I played in, a lot of stuff in matches, and I can't remember it all, but I remember it vividly happening. I ran for a ball under the Hogan stand side and was reaching for it, and Conor Gormley, as he'd done once or twice earlier on the match, pushed me in the back as I went to get it, and I've come down on the inside of my right ankle and went over on it, and I knew straight away I was in trouble, because I lay on my back, and anyone that's tore ligaments in their ankle before will tell you it's So I went back in full forward, literally stood on the edge of the square till half time, went in and tried to get physio. Nothing was happening. Strapped it up, nothing was happening. I even got an injection, and I literally couldn't put my foot to the ground. So I ended up on crutches for 4 or 5 days after the match. But like, just sitting in the stand, you just feel useless. There's not a thing you can do. There's we start training, I suppose, almost 12 months before this match, and like it feels like it's all gone out the window for absolutely nothing, because you're absolutely no help to the 15 lads out there, and 8 or 9 more lads are sitting around you, and Jason and all his crew. Look, it's obviously it's not anyone's fault. It's not any of our faults, but it goes without saying you can't make a contribution sitting in the stand. So no, look, it was disappointing, but the spirit and the performance the boys put up throughout in the second half was unbelievable. But to be honest, it's nothing that wasn't expected from them anyway. Yeah,
like Matty said, it was the second half, and I think Kieran Ling put 2 points in it after he scored that free after the goal. Like, you weren't that far away, David, were you?
No, we weren't. And I mean, like Tyrone, I remember the first half of that game. Tyrone were outstanding. I mean, their pace and running at us, and I mean, it wasn't that we were underprepared or anything. I think we prepared for that game more so than any other game in the whole year. I remember countless meetings in the Ferry Carrig going through in detail who you're picking up, every single player. But it's just they got a run on us in the first half, and I mean 14 something at half time. Like, I mean, but again, it showed the spirit of the group to come back. As we said, minus Matty. I mean, lads were outstanding in that second half. Kieran got a fantastic goal. I mean, Eric and Brendan were fantastic in the middle of the field. Colin, fantastic. Philip Wallace, 2 points from full back that day. That's one of my main memories of that day.
Yeah, he was excellent that day.
Unbelievable. He was some servant, yeah. And I mean, 2 points. And I even think when we got 2 points down, I think someone has a reasonable chance to put a point in, and I think we dropped it into the keeper's hands. And again, I suppose Tyrone showed how good they were to come out, really finish strongly like that day. And I mean, I mean, I think they at that stage we definitely had their respect insofar as we'd beaten them in 0-5 in the league semi-final and whatnot. But yeah, look at it. Do we look back on it with regrets? I probably would, because I mean, when we got 2 points down, we had the momentum and we were winning the breaking ball, and the guys up front were really sharp. But again, Tyrone finished strong, went on to prove themselves, win the All Ireland. So look at. That's it, yeah.
Jason, just on that day, like you said, you found it. You kind of had good chances against Ulster teams in particular. Did you mentioned some of the brilliant people involved with you in the management? Did you really feel that you had a plan that was going to work that day?
Yeah, well, every day we went out with a plan of maximising what we had and reducing what the opposition had, and the ins and outs of what the opposition did would dictate how you defend against it, and again how you try to maximise the amount of scores you're going to get. So that day, one thing that I remember vividly is Colin McCullough in the first half, his movement, and while we had a lot of early ball cut out to deliver into the full forward line, Brian was well positioned. Colin McCullough was picking up these little pockets of space, and they were the first team that we played against that they kicked the ball inside our half. They would look at, instead of 1 50-metre kick, they'd look at 2 25-metre kicks, and even though we'd pockets filled and we had spaces filled, there was enough space for them to kick those 30-metre kick passes into you, and it caused us problems, like it really did. And I think we got to grips with it better, and we kept possession better in the second half. And if you have the ball, you've obviously much better chance of scoring rather than the opposition coming back at you when you're out of position. And I also think there was more belief in the guys in the second half, as a realisation, like we are good enough here. We can really compete with these fellas. But very often you go into the game with one plan, and then by half time things are going a little bit different, and you have to just tweak things differently or do things somewhat different. And losing Matty at half time sure was a huge blow. At the time you're looking at, one of the most prolific forwards in the country, and a leader in the group, and how he played, but also how he spoke, and the lads looked up to him, and he was an outlet. So like if Matty made a run to the right hand side, not only did his man go after him, but also covering players would be thinking, right, where's Matty Forde, and it created space for other players as well. So I think a lot of credit has to go to other guys that second half. They stepped up, and they really made a fight for it. So we miss Matty being on the field, but the others deserve credit as well for how they really stuck at it and fought till the bitter end.
I suppose just it was a disappointing end, but a wonderful journey that year. If I was to ask you each what your favourite part of the year, or what your favourite memory from the year would be, would you be able to have one for me if I start with yourself, Matty?
It's very hard to pick out a particular moment or anything like that. I think for me, and I know you were asking David about the Armagh game and stuff earlier on, and something similar. Just I suppose where we had come from only 7 or 8 years earlier, where literally the first year I played for Wexford, played senior championship in 99. Literally, and as no joke, if you told someone that time, I remember saying it to someone, they said something like, "What are you up to the weekend?" I said, "Oh, we're playing." I think it was Longford in the championship, and it's no joke when I say someone would laugh at you to getting Wexford football into a position where we'd earned the respect of, I think, most people, or certainly the people in Wexford, but I think people throughout the country, and just to be able to go around and kind of, even though we'd lost that game and we'd lost the Leinster final, to be able to hold your head up and people actually, acknowledge the effort that the whole lot of the lads have put in the backroom team and the whole lot, but acknowledge that make Wexford football was not, I'm saying, back where it should be, but we had the respect of people, and that people are actually talking about Wexford football again in the way that we thought it should be. And for me, that was the biggest thing, that we weren't kind of just being looked down on as also rans for just again and again, like probably we had been for a long number of years before that.
Yeah. Do you feel sometimes that you mightn't, like you said, you genuinely believe that you were worth your place in that semi-final? Do you feel sometimes that maybe you don't get the credit you deserve for some of the brilliant football you played that year?
I think we do. In fairness, looking back at it, like Jason's on about different tactics and stuff, and I've seen some of the games, and I remember back a couple of years ago getting some DVD stuff from Jason. Yeah, we did. To be honest, I think we did. We played a lot of really good football, and we were running up a lot of scores from play and stuff like that. And I kind of think we do get the credit, because like I know from being away and being on trips with players from other counties and stuff like that. A lot of guys would say, geez, you had a lot of good players at the time, which we had, and we had a lot of players that would have played anywhere. So I know, I think to be fair, in general, we probably do, as far as I'd be concerned.
Brilliant. What about yourself, Jason? What's your happiest memory from that year?
Instead of me giving you maybe one occasion, I was going to try to paint a picture for you of it's not an occasion, it's the reaction of people. The parents of the players, meeting them after we won some of those games. Like the three lads there, like David and Anthony and Matty. Like I can still see their I can see Matty's dad, how happy he was after games, and his family. David's father, Anthony's dad, the reaction of the family members was just unbelievable. What it meant to them was just it would bring joy to anyone to just to see and feel and be around that kind of reaction. And after the down game, after the Leinster semi-final, after the Armagh match, even after the Tyrone game, coming back down the road and being on the bus and seeing all of those Wexford supporters and what it meant to so many of those people, it was just it was incredible stuff. It's something that I'll never forget, those memories of just what sport, the joy the sport can bring to somebody at a time like this where we don't have our games and people are saying, look, sport, we can do without it, we can do this, we can do that. Sport brings so much joy and happiness to people. It brings people together. It allows families to celebrate together, driving to the matches in the cars, coming home together in the cars, talking about it, discussing it that night in the pub, the whole week in the pub. It just brings so much to people. So to sum it up, my big thing from that year was just the joy that this special group of Wexford players brought to so many Wexford people. So that's the one for me.
Brilliant. And what about yourself, David?
Yeah, look, very hard to top that. I mean, insofar as, I love being part of that group. I mean, it was all about the group. There was no individuals in it insofar as looking out for themselves. It was all about the group. So I'm thinking back to after the Meath match, after the Armagh game, the sense of satisfaction after the Laois game, after the Down game, because the work we were putting in over the years off the field to be rewarded on the big stage, I mean, it was huge for us. I mean, 12 years on, 12 years on, there's still people that talk about the Meath game and what they were doing and what they said to Meath supporters at halftime and whatnot. It's still it's great that you can that 12 years on, people can still talk about days like that, and just echo the guys. I mean, the support, particularly at that Tyrone game, was amazing and it was fantastic. Yeah. So that's basically it.
Jason, did you feel, I suppose we'll just finish up soon enough, but did you feel that some of the lads deserved All-Stars that year?
Yes. Don't have to think about that one. Absolutely, 100% yes. Look, it's a selfish thing sometimes as a player, and it's an egotistical thing to think, I wish if I got one that year maybe, or I deserved one. But I'm as a coach, manager, somebody that was there and saw what our players did to some of the opposition players, I would feel that if we were Kerry or whoever might have been one of your more so-called traditional football counties, there would have been more of the guys that would have gotten All-Stars. Like some of the performances during the course of the year were just tremendous, and it was no one or two players. There like the whole group performed at different stages just incredibly well. So like it's not fair for me to pick any one or two individuals that should have got them, but I definitely felt that there should have been more of them getting recognition for how they had performed.
Yeah, with that in mind, the last thing I'm going to ask you is who Matty, you talked about the tough training matches you had in training. So who was your toughest in-house opponent and toughest opponent you actually faced from the opposition that year?
That year, I suppose opposition. it probably was Francie Bellew. Now, eventually we got the better of him and eventually wore him down. Like, it was more of a mental grind from the start of the game than physical, because, you know, I said if I'd have been okay physically, I possibly would have been able to get away from him, but I just couldn't. So, like, I was literally black and blue after for about a week, all down your side. And look, it's grand as champion. You don't expect him to stand in beside you and start chatting to you about what you're doing later on or anything like that. But because I wasn't 100% physically, it was just really tough going. And look, he's a tough man as well. Like, any chance he gets, he'd come through you or whatever like that. But you know, definitely opposition wise that year, he was the toughest. From our own side, there was a good few. Well, myself and Niall Murphy used to box in training most nights, and you know, I never had a problem with that. And in fairness, neither did he, because it absolutely stood to both of us come championship. But you know, if you did venture out a bit further out the field, that fella there beside you wouldn't be long about absolutely bursting you open either. But you know, that's what. That was another thing that fostered the relationship we had. There was huge respect there for each other. And I don't know if Anthony is still on. I think he's gone. Like, while he was in the goal behind us, like me and him, yeah, they can't hear him for a change, which is good. But you know, we punched it out. We often punched it out in training. But look, it was all forgot about straight away after. And I think, look, without a shadow of a doubt, it stood to us. You know, you can't go out and train at 60 or 70% and try and play a championship at 100. You need a bit of bite in training, not all the time, but there are certain times, and you know, whenever we needed it, we certainly weren't lacking it. But so great battles and right crack with Niall Murphy and anyone that was else. You know, Philip Wallace wasn't a bit shy or Colin either, so there was none of them were shrinking violets back there, I can tell you.
Philip Wallace and Francie Bellew be a good battle, I'd say.
Two ignorant enough men to be fair, all right. The English wouldn't have been great, but the battle would be good.
David, what about yourself? Toughest opponent in training and outside training?
Yeah, that year I suppose I got the runaround from Jason Sherlock in the Leinster final. He started at 11, and that type of small, nimble fellas didn't suit really. So he was going left, right. He was going everywhere bar the 11 position, you know. So probably that year, actually for the All Ireland semi final, I was building up for Brian McGuigan for a couple of weeks. Jason had he was telling me what he was having for breakfast, and basically in the dressing room beforehand, Tyrone submitted their team. Brian McGuigan was I think he was sick that day, so he didn't start, and I think Penrose started centre forward, and I thought that was a good thing, but after 15 minutes it wasn't a good thing. He was moving around, he was like Sherlock in training. Like, I used to hate seeing Linger come out to 11 in training. His movement was he'd sell you dummies left, right, and centre. If you wanted a bit of boxing, PJ would come out and would always look after himself. And yeah, PJ and like Matty rarely ventured out from the full forward line, but until later in his career. But PJ for a bit of boxing, Linger for you wouldn't want to see him coming. The only other thing I should have said earlier was that year, all year, Colin was a fantastic captain. Colin Morris, fantastic captain all year. Yeah, he led us by example all year. Yeah.
Brilliant. And he got to lift some silverware as well.
He did.
Look, if you have any final words on the year, I'm happy to have you share them. If not, I want to say thanks very much, lads, for coming on board tonight. Like you said, Jason, that people that aren't involved in GAA at the minute, but it's a great time to reflect on some brilliant memories, and everyone here has brilliant memories of the 08 season. So thanks very much, lads, and congratulations on your brilliant service to the county. Just to conclude then, I'll be back again on Sunday night at 8 o'clock for the reeling in the years of the Camogie 3 in a row, and again on Tuesday night for the 96 All-Ireland hurling. But thanks very much, and there's a full programme of our Wexford Wellbeing events on the screen at the minute. Thanks very much to Jason, to Matty, and to David for tonight. Thanks a million, and slán. Goodbye.
Thanks, James.
Cheers, James.
Thanks very much, James.
Thanks, lads.
Thanks.